say apart. Ooh, yeah. Ooh. Ay, 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 ay. Baby girl, do your dance, TikTok. Hit that bitch from the back, flip flop. Rubber ship in the pack, ziplock. Love them all a thing, thick dots. She drippin' like Aquafina. Ride it down like I ride with that Nina. Mucha gusta that mommy that.
Never betray a woman, or you'll make yourself the enemy of the entire world. Tower of God, Episode 4. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Sushi Mob. It's your boy Static, and I'm here giving you another Tower of God review. This time I decided to go all audio with some video clips and image clips here, just to give you all a little bit of a better experience, because my last one was... What? Oh my God! Whew. Yikes. All right. So, getting that out of the way, let's dive into it. So what I'm going to do for this review, I'll break it down into two parts. The first part of the review is going to talk about my thoughts on the episode, and then at the end, I'm going to talk about some of the deviations from the webcomic, which I've been reading as well. All right, so let's kick it off with the beginning of Chapter 4. So, one of the big things right off the bat to note is that they are going into the second and third round of the Crown Game this episode. I am a huge fan of the art direction with this episode. First of all, the testing area looks magnificent, and I already knew it would based on the webcomic. It's beautiful. It's just well done. Shout out to Siu, the author and creator of the series, for his artistic vision in what this is going to look like. So, we start off with Team Shulpin already being eliminated from last week, and we start off right off the bat with the next round getting ready to begin. We have Team Shibisu actually entering the match. So, two teams enter the match, and they begin to fight.
Round 1, fight!
What happens very quickly is that Hot just goes around and just takes out the other members. One thing to note is that Kun does stop Rock from entering the test, so that was an interesting little thing. We also get the rules to the Crown Game as well, so that's interesting. So I'll go over those really quick. The rules of the Crown Game are actually in each individual cell, and they go as followed. Stealing the crown and wearing it, sitting on the throne, makes your team kind of in the lead for that round. The rounds last for 10 minutes until someone else steals the crown, and you can have up to 5 teams participate at a time. For this particular first round of this episode, the second round, there are 2 additional teams in addition to Anak's team, which is made up of Anak, Hots, and Shibisu. So Shibisu actually now has to fight, and Hots confronts him about this and is like, dude, I believe you. I believe you're strong, so you and this should be easy for us. Shibisu, not the biggest fan of that. Shibisu is actually quickly becoming one of my favorite characters. He's very witty, and I actually read that he's one of Siu's, S-I-U, that's the author of Tower of God, one of his favorite characters because he's so witty. Shibisu starts this episode by actually going right against my title for this, which is, don't betray women, and he punch Serena. Now, this is after, obviously, Serena takes out a knife and tries to threaten him, but respecting women is not the number one thing on Shibisu's list of things to do. So he actually is like, hey, look, you tried to stab me, I will knock you out. Laying down the law. Come on, what you gonna do? They go back and forth. They have some really fun, witty banter there. I'm a big fan of a voice actor for Shibisu as well. They're doing an amazing job. In comparison to some other series that I'll leave them nameless, but you know which ones I'm talking about, where you have the side character who actually kind of have a little bit of cowardice and aren't necessarily as strong as your main cast, sometimes being a bit over the top with their fear. So I actually appreciate Shibisu for being kind of a nice balance of fear, bravery, wit, and kind of all of those things put into one character. That being said, Shibisu is not the only major player of this episode. as Hots is also a major player, and we get to see Hots' sword style a little bit more. He actually names his attacks this episode, which I'm not sure if he mentioned them that first episode, but he has the high flying sword where he throws his sword up in the air, and he has a low flying blade. In the web comic, I believe he was actually naming his attacks right off the bat. They actually saved that to this episode. So I'm going to go through the list of the characters that I have right now and their qualities, starting with Team Shibisu. So with Team Shibisu, we got Shibisu, who is witty, who disrespects women when pressed. And the other fun fact about Shibisu is Bam calls out his name this episode. If you remember in episode 2, Shibisu was talking to Bam and he wanted to be his friend. Now in episode 4, Bam calls out to him when he almost gets cut by Serena. So we see that Bam takes this whole friendship thing very seriously. And this is something that's going to carry on with the series. So I definitely want to note that for Shibisu. Next, we have Hots. Hots does stop Anak when she actually wants to go and engage the hooded team after her little debacle with Bam. So Hots he's pretty level-headed. He trusts his teammates. That's something that he puts out there. And he's pretty darn skilled with the sword. I'm not going to go into the Hots versus Oro debate, but one could say that there's a debate there. 2 sword style versus 3 sword style. Let's get it. All right, moving on. Then we have Anak. Anak has a very quick temper, as we can see this episode. Her just waking up from taking a nap on the throne, she wants to destroy everyone and proceeds to do so with the green April, which is her weapon. And she also uses the word ignite to try to ignite the green April. Now, this is the first time we are seeing an ignition weapon in the series activate and ignite. Now, Bam also has an ignition weapon that is the Black March. And they're both weapons out of the 13 series. Another thing we learn about Anak this episode is we learn her last name. She is Anak Jahab. So she is actually a princess of Jahab, but we also learned that she could potentially be a fraud in this episode. So we'll get to that. So that's the first team that we kind of meet, and we learn a lot about their members. The other team is Lori, Ho, and Serena. Ho is really funny. When I was reading the webcomic, I really thought that they were like trying to play on the fact that this was like a blonde-haired chick with a devil horn and like, oh, she's a Ho. No. Ho is totally a dude. And he is also on the team. He doesn't do much. So I believe we will see more from Ho later. So don't worry about Ho. Don't worry about your hoes. Okay, so moving on, we got Lori and Serena. Lori is actually a man. He's the sleeping bad guy. And if you know anything about anime stories, if somebody's asleep, probably strong as hell. And then you have Serena, who is very scared and kind of over the top with her antics, but she's survived very much because of her fear. So that is kind of her trademark. Now, going back to Lori. Lori, the sleeping boy, uses a Shinzu wave, and we find out he is something that's called a wave controller. Now, we're going to get into wave controllers a lot more later, but that is a really, really important fact. Wave controllers are able to manipulate Shinsu, which is the actual energy that is within the tower. So he is able to manipulate Shinsu. Another character who is also able to manipulate Shinsu is Rosiel, and we see her fighting against Kun in the 3rd round. So there are some Shinsu manipulators within these testers, so that's also some interesting things to note. What's really cool about Tower of God is all of your characters kind of, well, not all, a good chunk of your characters, even the peons and the fodder characters actually do mean something later on. So definitely pay attention to all the little details with these episodes. I recommend watching every episode twice just to catch everything. We get to the end of that round, and after that ignition, Bam's weapon starts shaking. And Anak looks over and she's like, nah, bro. I'm about to end this man's whole career.
Off for me. Let's end this.
I'm about to end this man's whole career.
What career?
But I'm not a rapper.
What career?
Look.
Hops off the throne and just destroys Bam's cell, goes to Bam's cell. Now, this is where, at this point, I'm going to kind of go into the end part of the video as well with talking about some things that are different in the manga than the anime. One of the things that happens at the end of their conversation, Anak places this bet with Bam. If he loses the crown game, she will take the Black March. If he wins the crown game, she will give up the Green April. At the end of this conversation, Kun and Rock actually say, hey, we accept. And in the anime, they don't say that explicitly. In the manga, they do. It's very interesting, the little differences there. Also, Kun has a statement in the manga that I am just in love with, which is, listen, main characters never come out first. You're just a side character. Know your role, Anak. Which, oof, I'm Team Anak. Woo. So that hurt my heart a little bit, tugged on my heartstrings a little bit. Because I'm like, Anak is not just a side character. She's a whole jihad princess. Ah. But, you know, it is what it is. Roro stops Anak from actually killing Bam or hurting Bam. I don't know if Bam can die. That's an interesting conundrum with plot armor, fourth wall, all of that. But Lee Roro stops her. He stops her from killing Bam, and he talks to her and tells her, you're disqualified. Get out. As she's walking back to her cell, she walks past the cell with Rachel. And someone else is at the front of the cell with different hair color than Rachel, who calls her an imposter. And her name is Endorsi. And that is all you need to know. Then we go to round 3. Round 3 was amazing. Kun, excellent. Devilish. Cocky. Everything that you wanted. I did hear some people saying that Kun should have been more cocky. I actually like how they have him playing his role, because Kun he's a cocky soft boy. Like that's really what he is. So like, you got to let him be a soft boy as well as being cocky. He does a great job. The other 2 teams try to get the crown. They don't. Bam is then crowned. Kun uses his special ability. He's able to duplicate the crown by putting it into a suitcase. He also releases this gust of wind when he comes in, and that has not really been returned to as far as like how the gust of wind got Kun from where he was standing with Rock and Bam all the way over. I don't know about that. Another thing to note is we don't see Rock fight at all. It's freaking hilarious. Rock is this guy who's touting about how strong he is, how he's a hunter, and he just wants to hunt. And then when he's presented with an opportunity to whoop some behind, he doesn't do anything. But we do have a list of Rock's feats so far, which is he can talk, he's pretty smart, he makes quick decisions, and this episode we learned that he can read.
Pow.
Rock is literate. Hashtag Turtle Gang. Bam sits on the throne, and at the end of the episode, we have Endorsi. Oh boy. Endorsi asks Rachel, can we kill all of them? We get a close-up on Bam's face, and Rachel says, yes, of course. We all know what this means. It's time to party. It's going to be wild next episode, because this hooded team is the team from last episode Quant let into the floor. Now, remember when Quant said that, he said that there was an irregular, a girl, and a princess of Jihad. So, it's really interesting. Speculation might be that Endorsi might be a princess of Jihad. You could probably draw the parallels there. So that's a little bit of a spoiler for you, but we're going to find out that next week. So there you go. The differences from the manga. I want to actually just quickly go to that here. The commentary from Rack on just wanting to fight and trying to press the button is actually not present in the webtoon. So that's something they added for comedic effect and a little bit of artistic liberty. I actually like this because it builds up the team of Rock, Bam, and Kun, and kind of puts Kun in this leadership slash, I don't know, the kind of guy to light the way, if you would. And so that one's a little interesting. The other thing to note is that the episodes are not exactly 6 chapters of the manga. There's a little bit of a difference there. So That's another thing to point out. This episode actually started on chapter 17 of the webcomic. So it's really close. About the difference between the webcomic is the panel where they say, I never knew that he was so cocky. They just say, I never knew he was like this. And I love the chibi artwork for Kun. Really, really good job. So those are the main deviations. There were a couple other like just little lines here and there that got left out. But honestly, from my opinion and from my standpoint, I really like the artistic liberties they're taking at this stage in the game. I think later on, it may be a problem when there are little semantic things that happen with some of the more particular elements, especially I'm thinking when we get to the train station. And we'll talk about that when we get to that junction. So that's pretty much my review for the episode. Please keep watching on Crunchyroll. Definitely support. All the money and revenue goes to see you. And continue to watch my videos. Like, comment, and subscribe here on YouTube. And I will catch you on the next Tower of God review. Keep shining.